Right, okay. Yeah, I know, but I mean, you know, 1 minute we're fucking lining up and the next minute. Which I just have one line saying here in Downing Street, Cabinet still meeting, extended talks. Then Mark does more top, then I pick up.
Okay, I'm gonna hang up. Do you guys still need Maria?
Not yet, no.
Okay, we'll keep you on standby. Can you guys have yes? Can you guys have the director call Chris, our cameraman, because he doesn't know what's happening?
Sorry.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to go with it, really. So I mean, it's like I know it's not ideal, but yeah, I know that's the thing. I mean, this bloody situation.
There we go, perfect. There we go. Just put it back to where we had it.
No, but yeah, which I'm okay, yeah.
Oh, your microphone. Hi, can you put me through New York MCR, please? And can you please tell them to call Chris?
Yeah. Do you still want me to pick up Theresa May?
Hi there. Can someone call Chris, please? Can your director call Chris, our cameraman? No one is talking to him on PL, so he doesn't know what's happening.
Okay, cards format. So that's what she's going to be still, isn't it?
It's alright, it's not your fault.
Sorry, I just didn't.
No, it's fine. Chris,
Yeah, but I'm not sure.
thanks very much.
Nice. Is it that like a case around here? It's the only bit I can see that's even close to it.
How much power's left in that brick? Is that camera?
what? Yeah, we're on standby, right? We're on standby.
Well, here in Downing Street, the cabinet. Here in Downing Street, the cabinet have been meeting for the past 3 hours to discuss that Brexit deal, and they are still meeting. We are, however, expecting a statement from the Prime Minister later this evening.
You'll just be on standby for this one. Just be on standby for this. Thank you.
I was looking at the wrong. No, I think you're fine.
So we've got a 1922 committee meeting happening right now. We've got this going on. We've got Arlene Foster just spoken to a Northern Irish media saying there will be consequences.
There will be consequences.
So there's quite, you know,
Yeah.
whatever speculation we need to go into about what's going on.
Who's speaking to the 1922?
Me? I go back. Well, that's right.
I'll probably say there's a lot happening at Westminster in the evening.
Okay, single and bring it out.
Well, Mark, the press are here in numbers, all poised for a big decision. The original plan was perhaps that round about 5 o'clock that cabinet meeting would have concluded and the Prime Minister would be able to come out and make a statement on what they have agreed. But they are still talking and we've been told to expect them to perhaps be talking for another couple of hours. So obviously there is a great deal going on here at Westminster because this is the moment of decision. Effectively, if Mrs May can get cabinet support for this, then the decision will pass to Parliament. If she can't get support for it, then we are going to be into a major crisis for Mrs May and for the government. Well, with me is our political editor, Faisal Islam. And Faisal, a dramatic day and a lot going on.
Absolutely, but let me try and give you a flavour of what I think is going on in that meeting, the sort of arguments that the Prime Minister and her allies will be putting to some of the more sceptical members of her own cabinet. She will be saying that the negotiating team, that the civil service negotiating team that signed off this draft agreement yesterday with the European Union have had some negotiating wins, that they've got rid of a reference to a Northern Ireland only backstop, and now the preferred UK backstop that the Cabinet signed up to, which is about an association with the customs union, essentially some sort of deeper alignment for single market regulations for Northern Ireland, but all contained within one backstop that protects the current border arrangements. That is the sort of argument the Prime Minister will be making. But that prospect is not attractive to some of the Brexiters in Cabinet because of this connection with the customs union that would seem to last for years to come. I'm talking about people like Penny Mordaunt and Esther McVeigh, who have looked pretty glum, having been fairly supportive in public when we filmed them over the past 24 hours since they've seen the detail of this report. We've also had an extraordinary thing, which is the Scottish Secretary David Mundell essentially went into Number 10, into that cabinet-making decision meeting with a letter signed by a dozen or so other Conservative MPs from Scotland, basically saying that the arrangements that seemed to be implied from a reading of this draft text were Britain becoming an independent coastal state in name only, not true independence for fishing. That is an extraordinary thing to both be protesting with a letter and be part of the decision making, and that's David Mundell. Some suggestions as well that Penny Mordaunt has suggested that you could have a kind of free vote on this, which seems like an extraordinary idea. Last time we heard this, we were both standing here. David Cameron did offer a free vote in terms of the referendum vote to his cabinet. It seems very unlikely that the Prime Minister could offer that to her cabinet as regards the legislation, but that idea is floating around. And all the while, right now, as this cabinet meeting overruns, it's already been going on for 3 hours, we have a 1922 committee meeting of Tory backbenchers. You heard Peter Bone there in the opening video, and we also have other key meetings going on throughout Westminster.
But effectively, the calculation that ambitious cabinet ministers have got to make is whether this can get through Parliament.
Exactly, and an ominous arrival, although it was pre-scheduled today, was Arlene Foster, leader of the DUP. She has been in town. She has been talking actually to our colleague in Westminster, having had some meetings, and my understanding is that she has said that we are very concerned about the narrative so far around the Prime Minister's proposal. She's demanding to see the Prime Minister this evening. I don't know if she'll get out of this. We think that she might give a statement. We're hoping she might give a press conference. Arlene Foster wants to see the text of this before it's even really been signed off by the Cabinet. If she decides to go against herself, this is a quote from Arlene Foster, there will be consequences, of course, there will be consequences. That is 10 votes, important votes that have passed in key Brexit legislation over the past few months have been the DUP votes. If they are not available, that is a serious thing. We've heard from Tory Brexiters saying that they won't back this. We've also heard from Tory Remainers. Could she pass this on the Labour vote? Labour quick out the traps to say that they pretty clearly can't back this either. The numbers do seem difficult, but she hopes she can walk out of here, say she's got a deal, she's got something through the Cabinet, the markets will surge, business will get behind things, and a wave of momentum will start that will carry her through Parliament. It's a tough ask, but that is the Downing Street strategy.
Okay. Do you want me to pull out or push in? Like that. Okay, so 3 minutes time, yeah?
3 minutes?
No, 3 minutes time for bump shot and then 7 minutes for a lot.
Oh, 3 minutes time for bump shot, 7 minutes for you, so you can still have your coat.
Brilliant, thank you very much. Okay, so 2 minutes after the bump shot's done, 2 minutes and then. Thanks, Neil.
ambassadors have started to come out of the Brussels meeting.
I know. Do you want me to do the... This is where I find out I'm live somewhere. I'm pretty sure she's going to be like this. These are going to come back to haunt me, aren't they? You done?
Yeah.
So, at the moment, we've got this... Nick, at the moment, this is what we had. So we had that ECM mic and that...
Okay. I'll give you back the ECM if that's all right. Smile for the camera, Paul.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's right, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
going to just have a chat
Yeah.
with him. Yeah.
Yeah, fine. Just tell them we're going to break it now.
Yeah.
What? Well, the line, though, on that is that it's this independent committee that basically there would be an independent body, neither European Union nor British government, which would monitor the backstop, and the British government would say, right, we want to break out of this, and they would apply to an independent arbitrator, which the Northern Ireland Committee has talked about, and Morrison's, and Morrison has said that would be acceptable to him, because I asked him today. Yeah.
That's fine. To have somebody.
Yeah, no, I'm just telling you, yeah. Yeah. Hello. Hi. I think Mrs. May's holding us all back for Jon Snow. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Here we are in Downing Street. It's mid-November, but it's quite balmy. Yes, Mark. Well, they've been at it now for 3.5 hours, and we've been told that they probably will continue their discussions for another hour or so. We're told that this is taking a long time because as each cabinet member makes their contribution, the Prime Minister is answering the points they raise rather than waiting to the end of the meeting to sum up. Now, cabinet ministers are getting their first detailed look at the agreement, but of course elsewhere now more and more people, sources are getting a look at what that agreement is, and with me is our political editor Faisal Islam, who's been working his contacts. And what are you hearing about this agreement?
So this is quite interesting. It's in line with some of the talk we have heard, but reliable sources are telling me that the withdrawal deal text contains no unilateral exit from the backstop, and obviously that's for both sides, but it pertains mostly to the United Kingdom wanting a unilateral exit from the backstop arrangement. Remember, number 10 is saying that it's a great win that this backstop will be UK-wide customs arrangement, pretty close to the customs union, deeper regulatory alignment for Northern Ireland, but whether or not the United Kingdom can choose to leave that within 2 years or 3 years or 4 years, how it's temporary or not, that matters hugely, and the confirmation that I'm hearing from my sources that there is no unilateral way out of this backstop, that's quite important. Maybe one of the reasons why this meeting is going on for an awful lot longer than we expected.
Now, Faisal, we've just got some breaking news, and it is fairly dramatic. A statement from Downing Street that there will be no press statement from the Prime Minister tonight, so the microphone is going to be redundant. The statement may come tomorrow. Now, that suggests that
we could be here for some time.
This meeting is, running into late into the evening, so presumably proving more problematic for the Prime Minister than she had anticipated.
It was never going to be easy, really, in any guise, but actually to come up with a series of solutions that are so complicated and to get it through this cabinet, and want to get it through this cabinet with as few resignations, hopefully zero resignations for the Prime Minister, that was always going to prove difficult. And if it takes a few extra hours, I'm sure that they will take them. I should say...
I'm sorry, I need to correct that. I was misunderstanding. It's no statement to the Commons tonight.
Yes.
Nick Hurd, the Minister, has said. So there's still the possibility of the press statement this evening.
Still, this is obviously going on for longer than we thought. I just want to add to what I said about from my sources about what's in this deal. No unilateral exit from the backstop. Also told that there's a large annex on a level playing field. Also controversial for many of the Brexiters who campaigned for Brexit on the basis that we will go out into the world and change our regulations and scrap some of the EU regulations. Level playing field, what that is about, is saying to the European Union, we won't out-compete you, we won't use the free access we want to maintain to your markets for car parts and other goods and pharmaceuticals and the like. We won't accept that and then outcompete you on environmental standards, on tax arrangements, on labour standards. We won't be a kind of island offshore from Europe that benefits essentially from full access to the single market whilst undercutting the European Union in terms of standards, therefore being able to do things for a lower cost.
But of course,
so a large chunk of this withdrawal, apparently I'm told, a large annex will be about level playing field arrangements. That shouldn't necessarily be a surprise. It was mentioned in the Mansion House speech by the Prime Minister, but the extent of those level playing field commitments that the Prime Minister makes will be key, A, to the ease of the deal between the United Kingdom and the European Union, but also about the nervousness within conservative Brexiter circles about, is this type of Brexit worth it? Is it worth going through with all this in order to then say and promise to the European Union that in return for a smoothish Brexit, we will basically align on key areas that they have dreamt of leaving the European Union in order to change those regulations.
This is the vassal state position.
Well, it's not. It's not all of it actually, but yes, but it's absolutely key, and in particular as regards, and it all interacts with the backstop. If we're part of the customs union and that UK manufactured goods have free access to the European Union, these level playing field arrangements are key to many EU 27 states in saying, well, hang on a minute, how can we have the UK out-competing us, doing deals with the US, and on the other hand, having free access to the UK frictionlessly, as if they were in the single market. This is what that is about, and I'm told that there's a large annex. Obviously, the devil with both of these things is in the detail. I can only relay to you sources who have who know of some of the text are telling me, but we await the detail of this withdrawal deal text, because it's in that detail that we'll see just how much the Prime Minister has won, has lost, has compromised on, and we are not going to get that until this meeting finishes, and this meeting is already way over.
Of course, we're still waiting, as you say, for the Prime Minister and other Cabinet Ministers to give their reaction to the meeting. So just to recap and to make clear, the Minister for London, Nick Hurd MP, has told the Commons that there will be no statement from the Prime Minister today in the Commons on this agreement. However, the expectation remains that the Prime Minister will make a statement to the cameras tonight on the conclusion of the Cabinet meeting, but that Cabinet meeting is still underway. Mark, back to you. Sorry, I heard the word press, which was obviously wrong. Details now. Right. There will be a statement, there won't be a press conference. Number 10 source. Yeah, official. Yeah. I think that probably. Just a statement, and then that'll be it till tomorrow, and then there'll be a common statement tomorrow, and quite possibly a press conference as well. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yep. That'll be you. Sorry about that earlier on. Yep. 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 Yeah, just cue me. It's going to be after the grab of what's his name? The Tory backbone. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, well, just cue me and I'll go. Yep. They're still talking. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah. Agreement. Well, inside number 10 behind me, the Cabinet have now been talking for 4 hours and they are still in their discussions. If there's agreement, we are expecting a statement here in Downing Street from the Prime Minister this evening. Here we go. Thank you very much indeed, Mark. Well, as we were saying, the Cabinet have now been meeting for over 4 hours discussing this deal, and it was thought that perhaps around about tea time the Prime Minister would be able to make a statement announcing agreement. That obviously hasn't happened. We're told she's answering the queries from Cabinet Ministers one by one, which is why this has become a more drawn-out process. Meanwhile, of course, in Brussels and elsewhere, people are beginning to get the outlines of what this deal might consist of. So first of all, Faisal, what's going on here? Is the Prime Minister having trouble getting the support of her Cabinet, do you think?
Well, evidently the meeting would have been rather swifter had it been an easy task. It never was going to be too easy. But from what I'm hearing, it has been a little difficult for the Prime Minister, and it's no surprise when you hear some of the details that Sky sources have told us about what's in that text, hundreds of pages, and then a further document on the future partnership. So I'm told it contains, the text contains confirmation that there's no unilateral exit from that backstop arrangement designed to keep the Irish border where it is. Also told that there's a large annex in the document on level playing field. That is about all the extra legislation around tax and environment and labour standards that surround the regulations.
Yeah. So basically this is going to be grist to the mill of those people saying this is Brexit in name only.
So I think what has happened, and it probably wasn't supposed to happen, is that people who have read this document, Cabinet Ministers who are a little sceptical, have given little details out to some other MPs on their side of the argument, and that is why you've had the backlash. You heard from Peter Bone there from Prime Minister's questions, very angry about what he's hearing about this. I've also heard, I mean, after I mentioned that to you, those two quite fundamental details about the shape of this deal, I heard from a very sort of basically upset senior figure in the government, who's obviously not in there, nonetheless, who'd said that they, Brexiters were pretty glum about what they had heard, had said that that description was basically spot on, and that what they had heard was the Attorney General Geoffrey Cox has not pulled his punches in confirming in legal advice that there can be no unilateral exit from the arrangement described in this draft withdrawal treaty. That really matters, because then what are we talking about here? We're talking about something that to most people looks like a version of the customs union. This is the backstop activity for the whole of the United Kingdom, with a certain degree of regulatory alignment too. That's the level playing field. And then that becomes the starting point for the future relationship. And you'll have seen this morning there was a very interesting story on the front page of the Times, a leaked account, chimes exactly with what we heard in that leaked account of what one of Michel Barnier's top negotiators told EU ambassadors. What's the overall picture here of much closer alignment with the EU for a period of years than I think some would have expected from a Prime Minister that routinely said that, you know, we've got to be out of the customs union, we've got to be out of the single market, we've got to chart our own course. I think some fear from a Brexit perspective, this would make it really quite difficult to negotiate meaningful and substantive independent trade deals with the likes of America and with the Pacific. Prime Minister, though, adamant on 2 points. She said it at Prime Minister's questions that we could, for example, join the successor organisation to the Trans-Pacific Partnership as a result of the legal freedoms afforded by this deal. She also says, Number 10 have been making the point, that it's a negotiation win, that a version of the backstop that pertains just to the Northern Ireland, that would have created constitutional barriers, that is now out of the document, that is a negotiation win. And essentially, she'll be going around that table now saying, this is the best we're going to get whilst having a smooth Brexit. Do you really want a no deal? That is the sort of argument now you expect. But she hasn't come here yet to give a statement. I'm not clear that all the Cabinet can and will support this. Clearly it's going on for longer than we thought. There could still be quite some drama here tonight. And if she gets through this, we still have all the drama in Parliament too. And it didn't look great for her in terms of not just Conservative backbenchers on the Brexit wing, on the Remain wing too, the Labour Party basically preempting the detail of this, saying that they were pretty unlikely to vote for this, and the DUP in town too, not showing too much love for the shape of this deal.
Okay, Faisal, thank you very much indeed. Should be said, Mark, that any media offensive tonight from the Prime Minister, much more limited than people were talking about. It's going to be a short statement here and then a statement to the Commons tomorrow. But of course, all that is predicated on Cabinet agreement, which we don't yet have. Back to you. Aren't you in bed yet?
Are you up at 3 in the morning tomorrow?
Yeah, I've still got you, yep. No developments here, though, as yet. Yep. Oh, right, what am I doing? I don't have a script or anything. Okay. Yeah, I can hear the gallery. What am I doing? Just tell me briefly. Okay, fine. We should get a minute's notice, you'll be pleased to hear. Oh, well, we're here anyway, don't worry. Yes, I can hear you, yes. Yeah. Yep. Okay. Yep. Yep. Yep, sure, no problem. Okay, no problem. No, not as yet, Ian. Things are definitely overrunning, and incidentally, we hear that one consequence of that is that the Prime Minister has had to cancel a planned briefing session today with business leaders. What we do know is that this meeting has been running for 5 hours now. That means there'll be no time for a statement in the Commons this evening, and the Prime Minister is still expected, if agreement is reached, to come out and make a short statement here. Also, any idea of a news conference this evening, that has also been cancelled. So clearly, Brexit, as ever, is going to the wire. The phase at the moment is whether the Cabinet can all agree to support the negotiated deal that was reached in Brussels yesterday. So far, the good news for the Prime Minister is there's been no walkouts. The bad news is she and her ministers are still talking. Ian. Yes, I can, yes. Yep. That is the word we've had, yes, but not imminent, like 20 minutes, half an hour, yeah. All right. So,
you also.
oh, hello, Andrew. How are you? We can do that if that's what you want. You just say. Faisal.
We've been sort of co-pro.
Whatever you want. We haven't had a lot of editorial guidance. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The latest we're hearing is possibly about 20 minutes away from the statement.
The security's here, so it's serious.
Is the security here?
Yeah.
Could be a bit earlier, but I'll sit down here.
Andrew, can you hear me? Yeah. Who else are you going to from the political unit? Like, are we throwing to the Conor Burns stuff? Are we throwing to the Arlene Foster stuff? Okay, fine. But I don't want to. But are we later in the bulletin going to either Conor or Arlene? Because then I don't want to. Okay, so I can refer to them. Okay, fine, good. So you're going to play the clips from Conor Burns and from Arlene Foster later. Okay, cool. But I'll reference them. Changing the headline from breakthrough to hanging in the balance. we were breakthrough 2 hours ago and now we're hanging in the balance.
Well, here in Downing Street, this is not going to plan. I was going to the meeting, there are reports of MPs still in uproar. A planned press conference had to be cancelled. Parliament was furious and not being consulted first. Theresa May still expected to come out to that rather lowly microphone and tell us something of what has been going on. We were expecting her in the next few minutes.
Not yet. A few months yet. Exactly. It's a long transition phase. Shortly, okay, great stuff. They're ready to go here? Imminently, yeah? Imminently. Yeah. Give me 1 minute. 2 minutes. We're 2 minutes. Okay, fine. Two or 3 minutes. 2 minutes. Okay, fine. Okay, we're very close, guys, so I'm going to start talking and then probably duck out. Yeah. Well, the Cabinet meeting has finished. We are now expecting this statement from the Prime Minister in Downing Street imminently, like within the next 2 or 3 minutes. So do forgive me if I jump out of shot in order to make way for the Prime Minister giving this statement at the conclusion of this historic Cabinet meeting. We have heard some of what the sorts of arguments that have been going on in there. Sky News was told by a reliable source that the withdrawal deal text contains a reference to no unilateral exit from the backstop and a large annex on level playing field commitments. And that is what I think, in general, that type of Brexit is what has yielded quite a reaction from the 1922 Committee of Conservative MPs. We're hearing all sorts of fairly negative noises from people who were willing to show some patience for this whole process. Sky News has heard from Conor Burns, who is an ally, of course, of Boris Johnson, the former Foreign Secretary, who said he's consistently said we don't want to change the PM, but there comes a point where if the PM's insistent that she will not change the policy, then the only way to change the policy is to change the personnel. That's a leading Tory backbencher. Other backbenchers not being particularly positive about what they've heard. So it's really important for the Prime Minister now to start to describe this deal in her own terms, and that's what she's going to do fairly imminently from behind me after this Cabinet meeting. But there are some Cabinet Ministers who won't have liked what they've seen. I've heard that there's legal advice from Geoffrey Cox, the Attorney General, saying, for example, that there will be no possibility to unilaterally come out of this backstop on Ireland, a UK-wide customs arrangement. I am just going to duck out of shot because I think the Prime Minister is very, very imminent, and so we can describe getting some approvals from the photographers there. So let's wait on the shot of number 10. Yes, there has been an awful lot of argument here at the Cabinet meeting. I heard from reliable sources, not obviously in the Cabinet room, about the broad shape of this deal, and it sounds like it's a lot closer in terms of alignment to the European Union than I think many Brexiters might have expected. And when I relayed that news about there being no unilateral exit from the backstop, and also that these level playing field commitments, that sounds techie, really important. It basically will confirm to EU members that the United Kingdom will follow key legislation from the European Union despite being out of the European Union, legislation pertaining to the environment, to labour standards, perhaps even some tax things too. That these level playing field commitments are very important, but they're an anathema to many of the top Tory Brexit supporters. Precisely why they want to leave the European Union is to avoid a level playing field, or what they see as a sclerotic EU. When I mentioned these on Sky News, I then got an extraordinary phone call, I think, from a senior figure in the UK government who said it was absolutely spot on, and this was what was causing some concern, some considerable concern in cabinet circles about the nature of this arrangement. As I say, the general gist of it seems to be a far closer alignment, an ongoing alignment, and some scepticism about the extent to which the United Kingdom could do truly meaningful independent trade deals with the likes of the USA. Certainly not on goods, for example. And whether or not this backstop arrangement activated, a UK-wide customs alignment that basically looks like a customs union to most people, single market alignment too, that could then become the baseline for the future arrangement, an already very high level of alignment. It's not what Boris Johnson says that he wants, and I think it has yielded a reaction from Conservative backbenchers. 1922 committee happened to be meeting today. We've also had the DUP in town, Arlene Foster, the leader, wanting to meet with the Prime Minister tonight, she's told Sky News, wanting to meet with the Prime Minister, but also wanting to see a text. Now, all of the detail of this text will actually be the proof of exactly where the compromises lie. How much has been given up? How much has been won in the negotiation? Number 10 adamant that the Prime Minister's negotiating team has won key concessions. For example, there is no longer specifically a Northern Ireland backstop reference, as had been in, and that they had promised to put in to the text of the withdrawal agreement. And also they say that they've won some other concessions as well. But we will see when this document is published. We had expected it to be published tonight. It may not come tonight, so we again will face hours of not quite knowing exactly where the deal lies. But challenges getting it through Cabinet. We'll see how much this challenge is after the Prime Minister comes out and after the Cabinet leaves. But then that's just the start of the challenges. Also has to, of course, get this through Parliament. Well, my sense here is that people who saw this text last night and this morning have communicated some of their concerns to their colleagues in the backbenches of the Conservative Party. That explains some of the vehemence of the response that we saw. I think you played the clip from Prime Minister's questions of Peter Bone, the first question from a Conservative MP after the exchanges with the Leader of the Opposition. A very hostile question from Peter Bone, a man who just 6-7 months ago was telling the Prime Minister at Prime Minister's questions that there'd be a statue of the Queen of Brexit, Theresa May, in his constituency. Well, there'll be no such statue, I think, now, certainly not in Peter Bone's constituency. He said that this was not the Brexit that people voted for, and that if she pursues this Brexit plan as outlined, that it will lose millions of voters for the Conservatives. He's not a lone voice on that. As I said, 1922 backbench committee meeting in Parliament at exactly the same time that this Cabinet met And at that time, Dermot, it does seem as if a number of Tory backbenchers who have been in the "we need to change the policy, not the Prime Minister" sort of space, it seems that they have developed their thinking in a bad way for the PM. Now, for the Prime Minister, I'm sure, and number 10, they will say, well, hang on, all of you and all of us are talking about a plan that we haven't read yet fully, including the MPs that say that enough is enough as regards the Prime Minister. So there is now an important opportunity for the Prime Minister to sell this deal. She has to sell it. She has to win, obviously, her cabinet ministers around. One would presume that would have had to have happened if she's going to make a statement in a few minutes' time or a few moments' time. She's got to win her MPs round. Frankly, she's got to try to win the DUP round, but that looks like quite a difficult task right now. And she also needs to potentially win round some Labour MPs too. And
hear what the Prime Minister has to say. Arlene Foster is waiting to hear what the Prime Minister has to say, because right now, as you point out, Dermot, the DUP have not yet had eyes on the text. They're hoping to do so later this evening, but they are really concerned by what they are describing as the narrative around the Prime Minister's proposals, that while the speculation suggests all of the UK would be temporarily in the customs union, there would be specific provision for Northern Ireland in relation to this single market. So regulatory alignment is the best way to describe that, to ensure there is no separation between the north and south.
Faisal, it's the gallery. Can your camera up hear us?
Has raised the whole constitutional question, because unionists are concerned that it creates...
Cool, we're going to stick on your shot when the PM comes out, so if you could give us a nice push in, that'd be great.
Separating Northern Ireland from the rest of the UK, and that's what the DUP has always described as their red line. Prime Minister, although we don't know exactly what they are going to be at this stage. I think we can speculate that she's talking about the confidence and supply agreement. Arlene Foster has been saying since early this morning, when we caught up with her at the airport here in Belfast, that this is an arrangement between the DUP
The Cabinet has just had a long, detailed and impassioned debate on the draft withdrawal agreement and the outline political declaration on our future relationship with the European Union. These documents were the result of thousands of hours of hard negotiation by UK officials and many, many meetings which I and other ministers held with our EU counterparts. I firmly believe that the draft withdrawal agreement was the best that could be negotiated, and it was for the Cabinet to decide whether to move on in the talks. The choices before us were difficult, particularly in relation to the Northern Ireland backstop, but the collective decision of Cabinet was that the government should agree the draft withdrawal agreement and the outline political declaration. This is a decisive step which enables us to move on and finalise the deal in the days ahead. These decisions were not taken lightly, but I believe it is a decision that is firmly in the national interest. When you strip away the detail, the choice before us is clear. This deal, which delivers on the vote of the referendum, which brings back control of our money, laws and borders, ends free movement, protects jobs, security and our union, or leave with no deal or no Brexit at all. I know that there will be difficult days ahead. This is a decision which will come under intense scrutiny, and that is entirely as it should be and entirely understandable. But the choice was this deal, which enables us to take back control and to build a brighter future for our country, or going back to square one, with more division, more uncertainty and a failure to deliver on the referendum. It's my job as Prime Minister to explain the decisions that the government has taken, and I stand ready to do that, beginning tomorrow with a statement in Parliament. But if I may end by just saying this, I believe that what I owe to this country is to take decisions that are in the national interest. And I firmly believe, with my head and my heart, that this is a decision which is in the best interests of our entire United Kingdom.